Hello, welcome. I am so excited to be live right now and having this conversation with you. I have been looking forward to this all week. So thank you so much for allowing me to make space for this conversation. This is something that I have been wanting to talk about for a while. It's something that's always on my mind, and I'm so grateful to be here. I'm really grateful that there is a platform where I can have this conversation and where I can invite others to join. So if you're here or if you're watching the replay, I really welcome you to this space, and I really am excited that you're here. I'm really grateful that you're here, and I'm also really looking forward to just being authentically myself, sharing some behind the scenes of my journey with you that I haven't necessarily shared before, or sharing some of the thoughts, feelings, challenges that I've navigated in my own journey, both as an entrepreneur and formerly in my corporate life. So my goal is really to just have an honest conversation with you, invite you to have an honest conversation with me, and for us all to share this space together in a way that is productive and fulfilling for all of us. So first things first, I do want to say I am at home with COVID. So I may be taking some water breaks. I have some water. I may also be taking a break if there's some coughing coming on. I just want to put that out first so that nobody is alarmed. I've just been having a little bit of coughing, and so I'm going to try to keep it to a minimum, and I have my water right here, but just to give y'all a heads up, this is what I'm working with. I didn't want to postpone the conversation today because I just think it's such an important conversation to have, and I have been looking forward to sharing this space with you all week. And so I'm really excited to get down to it. Just know that if I have to take a break and do some coughing, just give me a minute. So I want to start by just opening this space with kind of the intention that I want to hold for our conversation today. My intention for today is really to talk about the things that we aren't talking about, to talk about the things that other people may not be able to talk to us about because they may not understand everything that we go through as Asian American Pacific Islander entrepreneurs. There's a lot that happens in the business world. There's a lot of learning. There's a lot of strategy. There's a lot of mindset. There's a lot going on in the world of entrepreneurship. And the thing is, there's a lot of people teaching, how do you start your own business? How do you be successful? But there's another layer to it, right? We all receive learning and education from whatever spot that we're standing, us as individuals. So me, learning a course on strategy or listening to a podcast or reading a business book, I'm going to take away different things than you're going to take away. And so the purpose of today is really for us to come together and talk about how we're receiving and navigating through different things in business that might be really unique to our journey specifically as Asian American Pacific Islander people, as entrepreneurs who are immigrants or maybe the children of immigrants. It is a different experience that we go through in the journey of entrepreneurship. And it's not one that we often talk about in the entrepreneurship space. And so my goal today is really to give voice to you. If you have felt certain feelings during your journey of entrepreneurship, or if you have ever questioned how to build your brand in a way that feels authentic to who you are, I want this to be a space where we can really talk about that in an authentic and open way. And I want to share with you what I've navigated through, the ways that I've been able to bring who I am into my brand, as well as the times when I've found it difficult or when I've felt like I've been facing different challenges than others, than my friends, than my colleagues who are also in a similar space, right? The reality is that our lived experiences do inform the the way that we look at life, the way that we look at business, the way that we approach certain situations. And so it's really important, I think, to like name all of those experiences that we go through as Asian American Pacific Islander entrepreneurs, because it can really help us take back our power and step into our own power going forward, so that we don't have to be held back by any experiences that we've had growing up, or any of our beliefs that we had, when we were growing up. We don't have to let all of those things inform how we choose to be going forward. So I'm talking to you specifically if you're an entrepreneur, but also if you're someone who really values creativity and self-expression. So every business is different. Every business, depending on what you sell, how you make a living, you might be building a brand in a different way. I'm talking to you if you consider yourself to be a creative person, if it's really important for you that your brand expresses who you are as a person. This could mean that you are the face of your brand. So if you're an artist, if you're a designer, if you're a coach, if you're in real estate, if you're a lawyer, like if you are the face of your brand, a lot of times you'll find that creativity and self-expression are very important. You could also be doing something completely different than what I've just listed as examples. But if you are someone who values creativity and self-expression in your business and in your brand, you are the person I'm talking to. I find that when we are people who are creatives and when we are people who highly value self-expression, it's so important that we feel aligned to the image that we're portraying to the world, right? And we live in a world where social media is king. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all of these platforms makes it so easy for us to share who we are with the world. The only thing that makes it hard, or maybe not the only thing, but perhaps the hardest part of sharing who we are with the world, is whether we feel like who we are is going to be accepted. Whether we feel like who we are is going to resonate with the person on the other end of the screen. In the world of social media, I find that it feels vulnerable sometimes to share who we are. And the reason is because everything that we share, everything that we publish, every time we hit post, right, we're sharing something that is a part of who we are. And that makes it scary, that makes it vulnerable. That makes it like, if this post doesn't get enough likes, if this post doesn't get as many views, does that mean it wasn't a good post? Is that invalidating the experience or the art or the creativity that I've just put out there into the world? There is an element of being rejected by the people on the other side of the screen that I think is just a very real part of the social media experience. And the reason I want to bring it up is because if you are an Asian American, Pacific Islander, or just someone who has ever experienced the feeling of being different, being an outsider, then that feeling of rejection is heightened for you. That feeling of someone might not receive who I am, someone might not understand where I'm coming from, someone might not relate to the things that I'm saying, someone might think I'm weird, someone might think I'm different, someone might just not like me for who I am. That feeling, that fear is heightened. And it's heightened because of the way that we've grown up. So when I was growing up, going to school in Michigan, in the suburbs, which were primarily white, you kind of learn out of survival to adapt. And when I say adapt, I really mean fit in. This is something that if you're someone who is ever identified as other, you have probably felt this pressure at some point in your life to fit in. And so for me, as I'm growing older, as you're transitioning from being a child to being an adult and you're more in control and power of your own decisions, you start to take back some of that power, right? You start to take a stance for who you are, for what you love. You start to really take back that power, take ownership of your voice, speak out for the things you believe in, embody who it is that you want to be. That's a natural part of the journey of growing up. But there are still feelings and experiences that live inside us from when we were kids, maybe from when we were growing up, maybe passed down to us from intergenerational beliefs or intergenerational trauma from our immigrant parents who came to this country in search of a better world, came to this country in search of a better life. Like, there are beliefs and behaviors that are ingrained in us from when we were kids growing up that even if we don't believe in them and even if we don't subscribe to that belief system today, still inform the way that we look at the world and still inform the way that we make decisions. So being here in this social media universe, right, where our businesses are built on platforms like Instagram, platforms like Facebook, even if you're operating through your website, our businesses are built on our brands, and our brands are the way that other people perceive us. And there's a lot of emotion and complexity that goes into how we put forth and express who we are as people, especially if we come from a place of having experienced rejection in the past. So today I really want to have an open and honest conversation about that, because the first step to taking back our power is to really acknowledge any trauma, any fear, any insecurities that may live in the back of your mind, that may live in your heart of hearts. And every time you press post, or every time you write something that is truly from your heart, or you design something that is an expression of who you are, and every time you put that out there into the world, you might be rising above that fear. And that is a beautiful thing, but it really is like a day-to-day journey, right? There is no day when there's ever like zero fear. I mean, maybe there is for you, but there's certainly not for me. There are no days in my life where I'm like, I have no hesitations about saying whatever I want to say. Like, every time I show up on here, on Instagram, every time I post something that I've written from my heart, every time I share a little bit of my journey with you as an entrepreneur, even if it's not even an entrepreneur journey, even if it's like a personal journey, but every time I share a piece of myself with you, it's a vulnerable moment. It's a moment of like, are people going to understand what I'm saying? Are people going to hear the words coming out of my mouth and understand the experience that I'm trying to share? And every time you decide to share that, despite the risk that someone may not get it, is a moment when you're rising above the fear, when you're choosing to take back your power. And I really want to open the conversation around the complexity of choosing to rise above the fear and how we can empower ourselves to do more of that in our brands and in our businesses. So when I started my business, and many of you might know this if you've followed me for a while, if you've followed my journey, but I started my business at the very tail end of 2020. And when I started, I was working a corporate full-time job, and the hustling heart was a side hustle. It was a side hustle, and it was a creative outlet for me. And I was not doing branding. I was doing wedding invitations. And I specifically was designing wedding invitations for Chinese weddings. Not only for Chinese weddings, but that was really like the inspiration, the reason why I wanted to get into the wedding invitation design space, was because I really wanted to empower Asian American couples to celebrate their most important day of their life in whatever way that they wanted. And I didn't see that there were a lot of Asian wedding inspiration, Asian wedding stationery, Asian wedding aesthetic. I just didn't see a lot of it in the world. And I'm in a phase of my life when a lot of my friends are getting married. And so this was very top of mind, and I wanted to like fill that gap. I saw a gap in the market. It was a gap that I felt very personally connected to. And I was like, let me be the person who can help others feel seen, feel heard on the most important day of their life, on their wedding day, right? This was a moment of me taking back my power and me owning like my identity as an Asian American woman, as an Asian American entrepreneur. And so it felt very powerful to claim that for myself. And perhaps you relate to this. Perhaps you have a business. Perhaps you design things with, an Asian aesthetic, or perhaps you cater to Asian clients, or perhaps part of the way that you share your life on social media is you share about who you are and the things that you love, and some of those things are Asian. Like, we are not monolithic. We are not one thing. We as people, each one of us contains multitudes. So however you show up, to your customers, to your audience, you probably bring a little bit of that, cultural heritage with you because that's part of who you are. But while sometimes those moments can feel really empowering, I also want to talk about how there's so much duality here. Because while I felt super empowered to create stationery for Chinese weddings and to create New Year's cards for Chinese New Year, and I was like, yes, I'm putting this out there, I'm listing it on my website, I'm blowing it up on social media. At the beginning of this year, I did a styled shoot, which is basically like a stage photo shoot with other wedding vendors, and the whole theme of the photo shoot was around Chinese New Year. And this was a project that I put together because I was like, let me celebrate who I am, let me take back my power, let me use my voice, let me proudly share with the world who I am, right? Celebrate the way that I grew up, celebrate my culture, my heritage. I felt so powerful in that moment. I felt so seen. And at the same time, every day I'm going through still fears and insecurities, okay, should I share what I ate for breakfast this morning? Even if it was mantou, which is Chinese for it's a Chinese bun. And other people, I know people have no idea what this is, but part of my thing, the way that I show up on Instagram is I like to post food because I love food. But do I post this? Nobody knows what it is. Only people who are Chinese or who are Asian will get it. Is this gonna alienate people? But I'm good to share the Chinese New Year photo shoot stuff because that was an event. I made an event out of it, and I'm really proud of that work, and I'm blowing it up on Instagram, I'm posting it, resharing it. But what I ate for breakfast, maybe not. That's just for me. I don't want to confuse anybody of what this weird food is. There is so much duality in self-expression, and so much duality for me lives in those small moments, right? Where on one hand, you're making a conscious choice to celebrate who you are in some way, bring who you are as an Asian American entrepreneur into your brand and into your products in a very conscious way. Maybe you design, I'm making this up, but maybe you design stickers and you design I don't know, dim sum foods into stickers or something. And that's a very conscious claim of you taking back your power and you sharing something you love with the world. But on the other hand, maybe there's other things about yourself that feel too Asian to share. And so those are the things that you keep for yourself, behind the scenes. And I am not here to tell you that you need to be sharing all of your life with the world. This is not a conversation about how to show up on social media or how to give more of yourself to other people. That's not what we're talking about. But what I'm saying is that there is very real duality that lives in those moments, those everyday moments of life, where sometimes you feel so empowered and you're choosing to celebrate who you are in a big way, and it feels amazing. And that same day, you can experience a moment of frustration, of misunderstanding, of feeling like you're not yet fully seen and fully heard by your audience or by even your friends or by just the world in general, right? So I want to acknowledge the duality that lives in those moments and how it's not always a black and white thing. You may see me or other Asian American entrepreneurs, other people of color, other people who identify as being different. You may see us in a position of power and leadership, sharing who we are, celebrating who we are, sharing those vulnerable moments, sharing those posts that are a confession of our innermost thoughts and fears, and really celebrating that vulnerability and honesty. But know that for me, and I'm sure for every other person that you see doing this, there are real moments of fear and insecurity that take place behind the screen. For every decision that I make to share with you all, there's another decision, right? That is just me at home being is this decision, is this thing that I'm about to say going to land with people, or is it going to be rejected? And I really, really want to implore myself, I want to implore all of us not to overlook those moments and to not make ourselves wrong for feeling those insecurities, not make ourselves wrong for being willing to share Chinese New Year cards and celebrate Chinese New Year while also like not wanting to talk too much about what we ate for breakfast because we're afraid that that's not going to land with people, right? Let's not make ourselves wrong for having fear and doubt and insecurity. Let's just make that part of who we are. And you know what? It's okay if there's certain things that we just want to keep behind the scenes for us. I'm not here to tell you what you need to be sharing with your audience or not. I'm just here to say this is all part of the journey, and the first step to really, truly embracing all of who we are is to acknowledge all of that journey, the ups and the downs, the duality, the non-black and white areas, right? The gray areas. All of this is part of our experience, is part of who we are, and we should acknowledge it and not make ourselves wrong for feeling it. So I have a couple branding clients that I've worked with this past year, and we talk a lot about how it is different for us to build our brands and to try to connect with clients as Asian American women, as Asian American entrepreneurs. And I just want to share a few of their stories, not their names, but just their stories, in hopes that it might help you feel seen as well and to bring to light in a different way some of the things that I've been talking about so far. So I have a client, for example, a beautiful, beautiful client who is an artist. She's a photographer, and she confessed to me that she was designing a client welcome gift that was a celebration of her culture. She was putting together a bag made of textiles that was from her country of birth, and it was like handcrafted by artisans from that country, and she wanted to give really a flavor of that country to her clients with this client gift. It was such a beautiful idea. She was so happy and proud of this client gift. In that same call, 10, 15, 20 minutes later, she also confessed to me that she dreaded getting on discovery calls with her prospective clients because she felt like they couldn't relate to her, because she had insecurities around the accent that she had when she was speaking English. And she felt like as soon as the person on the other end heard her accent, they would automatically assume that she was different and assume that she didn't understand them and write her off as someone they didn't want to hire as a photographer. So there's duality, right? She had come up with this beautiful client gift that was a celebration of her culture and the country that she was from. And in the same call, in the same breath, she confessed to me that she's afraid to show who she is on calls. She's afraid that someone will judge her for who she is and write her off and not work with her because of that. There's so much duality in these moments. And again, it's just about really being honest about these moments and acknowledging that while you can, on one hand, celebrate who you are, on the other hand, there truly are vulnerable things in all of us where we do just want to be accepted and seen and embraced for who we are, but there's still, there's fears and conditioning that tells us that other people will reject us for our culture, for the way we talk, for the things we like, for the food we eat. There's so much here that really can be a moment of celebration, but also be a moment of fear. So another story, another client, another beautiful, beautiful client. She was writing a children's book. It's actually a dual language children's book to teach children her native language. To teach her children her native language, basically, but also, so other moms could teach their children the same language. And she was telling to me that she was thinking about possibly doing a podcast or interviews about her book, but she was afraid to do it because she had an accent. Her English had an accent. Okay, I just love her so much for this example because her product, her actual thing that she was selling is a book to teach people how to speak a different language. And yet she was afraid of presenting herself to her audience as someone who speaks English with an accent, right? So again, there are so many times when we feel that fear, we feel held back by this fear of rejection, by not being accepted, by our audience. And again, it's okay to feel these things. Like, I share these experiences with you to let you know that if you have ever experienced this duality, that you are not alone, that it happens to all of us. And in the next moment, I really want to take you through how we can rise above these moments of fear and really try to take back our power when it comes to sharing ourselves with our audience, but especially when it comes to sharing ourselves with our clients. So a lot of my clients, and where I really operate from in my business, is we have personal brands where we are the face of the brand. And so when someone invests, they invest to work with us, or they invest in a design that's created by us, or an art that's created by us. So when someone pays you money, they're paying you because of your skills and your talents, right? And so when you have a brand like this, it just becomes so important that your brand is connected to who you are. And that's why the conversation of being able to bring all of who you are into your brand becomes so important. Because as artists and as creatives, no matter what kind of creative you are, and I do consider, like coaching and education to really be a creative space, because you're really expressing yourself to your clients, to your people. So when we operate in this space where it's so important for us to be self-actualized and self-expressed, how can we celebrate all of who we are, right? How can we get on a call with a client, with a lead, without feeling held back by an accent, by speaking with an accent? Or how can we share all the things that we're passionate about without feeling like someone is going to not work with us because they don't understand or don't know the references we're making? How can we move beyond that to really confidently show up in our businesses to our audience as who we are, so we don't have to always be filtering ourselves or trying to fit in? What even is fitting in when it comes to fitting in for your audience? Like, your audience is coming to your Instagram, to your TikTok, to your Facebook. They're finding you in the fast online space because they want to listen and hear from you. They want to consume the content that you're creating. They want to look at your art, your voice. So what is fitting in? Who are we fitting in for? We're fitting into our audience, but our audience is coming here for us. And so that doesn't make any sense. What? This idea of this concept of trying to make ourselves small and trying to fit in and trying to be something that will be accepted by our audience it's such a catch-22 when you really think about it, because your audience is here because of you. And so why would we make ourselves small for them, right? Of course I say that, and it's easy to say this now, and then, tomorrow when I'm posting something vulnerable, I'm going to be like, shoot, should I post this? Is this going to get likes? So again, it's a journey. But I do want to share something that I think is so, so, so important to acknowledge if you are in this space of being the face of your brand, of booking clients who work with you and not necessarily just selling, a product that someone just buys with a click of a button in a cart without ever interacting with you. I want to remind you really that at the end of the day, it is not your job to convince somebody to follow you, to like you, to buy from you. In fact, you can't. You cannot convince somebody to like you, follow you, buy from you. That's not within your control, right? The person on the other side of this screen, the person on the other side of your phone, they are a fully formed person with their own thoughts and opinions, their own perceptions of the world, and whatever you post, whatever you say, they're going to take it however they take it. They can make their own decisions about how what you share lands with them, right? They can make their own decisions about whether or not to work with you. And they're going to, believe me, they're going to. They're going to make their own decisions no matter what it is that you do, no matter what it is that you share, no matter what it is that you post. And believe me, Nothing you post, even if you try to filter it or make it something that you think they want to hear, that is not going to convince them. I mean, they are not, like, we're not hoodwinking anyone, right? Like, we're not conning someone to believe that we're someone that we're not. Like, your audience is going to make the decision that's best for them, and they're going to make up their own minds no matter what it is that you do. So it is not your job to convince anybody to buy from you, like you, or follow you. What is your job, though? When you get on that sales call with somebody to try to close the deal and try to convert that person, how do you do that? Like, what is your priority then? Let me tell you what your job is. Anytime you show up in front of your audience, whether that be in a private setting like on a sales call, or whether that be in a public setting like on social media, anytime you show up, your job is not to convince somebody to buy. Your job is not to try to like fit into whatever you think your audience wants you to be. Like, that doesn't make any sense, because your audience is here for you. And it also doesn't make any sense because your audience is going to make up their minds about what they think of you, no matter what it is that you say or don't say. Like, they have an opinion, they're going to have their opinion, and they can make up their own minds about what that opinion is. What your job is, really, is to give them true, authentic information about who you are so that they can make up their minds about whether to follow, buy from you, right? So when you get on a sales call with somebody, your job isn't to like try to say the right thing, try to say what they need to hear in order to buy. Your job is just to show them who you are. And at the end of the call, they will make up their own mind about whether to work with you based on how you were on the call. But like, why would we try to say what we want them to hear? Why wouldn't we just show up and be ourselves, show them who we are, and then they can make up their mind, not based on like a toned down version of who we are, but actually based on who we are. Like, wouldn't we want that client who wants to work with us because of who we are? So I really want you to give yourself permission to just be your truest, most authentic self. You don't have to make yourself small or try to fit yourself into a box or try to fit yourself into what you think the other person wants to see. Your job, whenever you show up, whether it be on social media or whether that be in a private setting like a call, your job is simply to just be who you are. Because that, my friends, is the best way to attract your soulmate clients. Your soulmate clients are the people who are going to want to work with you no matter what it is that you do, you know, what accent you speak with, what hobbies you have. Like, your soulmate clients are going to be drawn to you because of who you are as a person, and not just because of what you sell, what you do, or what you can offer to them. Your clients are going to work with you because of who you are as a person. And so if you want to start to attract those soulmate clients and book those soulmate clients who love your work, but also who love who you are as a person, the key isn't to just try to say whatever you think it is they want to hear from you. The key is actually to just be yourself, to give the other person as much information as you can about who you are, authentically, really, like behind closed doors, who are you? And then they can make the decision of whether they want to work with you and be part of your world or not. You want your clients to self-select out, is what I'm saying. So instead of you trying to like fit yourself into a box of what they want to see, just be you. Give them as much information as you can about who you are, truly, authentically who you are, and let them self-select out of whether they want to be part of your world or not. So I hope that today was a good space for you to think about all the ways in which you can bring more of yourself into your brand, and for you to start to give yourself permission to bring more of yourself into your brand. Whenever you feel that moment of doubt, of fear, of insecurity, like, hey, am I going to be rejected? Hey, is what I say going to land with someone? Just remember, they can self-select out of your world at any time. And at the end of the day, you don't control what they do anyways. They're going to self-select out if they want, and if they don't want, they're going to stay, but you don't have any control over that at all. So like release the illusion of control, release the illusion that anything you do is going to directly cause them to change their mind or to make a choice. Like, we don't have that kind of power. We don't have that kind of control. It is not our job to be responsible for someone else's decisions. Your audience and your clients can self-select into and out of your world. And so all we need to do as entrepreneurs is simply to present our audience, our people, with as much information as possible about who we really are, so that our audience can truly make the best choice for them on whether they want to be in our world or not. I am so proud that I made it through 40 minutes without coughing. And I really thank you for being here today. It has been such a pleasure, such a release for me to have this conversation with you. I have only covered a fraction, I think, of what it is to be an Asian American entrepreneur and to feel that feeling, feel that added pressure of having to fit in and having to present who we are as acceptable to society. I know this is like something that is very prevalent especially for Asian Americans. I'm speaking from my own lived experiences, but also from conversations that I've had with friends, with colleagues. And so I really wanted to create this space where we could just speak authentically about truly this experience and also talk about ways we can rise above it. So I really hope this was a helpful conversation for you. The Great Endure says, so many great gems here. Thank you for sharing. Have a lovely day. Thank you so much for being here. I can't even put into words how much it means that you're here. It is such an honor. I'm so grateful to be able to make space for this important conversation. I hope to have more of these in the future if this is something that is helpful to you all. If you would like to continue staying connected with me, to have more conversations like this, I invite you to stay connected. Instagram is a great place to stay connected. I do have a free challenge currently happening called Embody Your Brand that's going to take you through the end of May. And it's really a challenge where the challenge really is very simple. It's getting dressed every day for your brand. So putting on clothes, dressing intentionally to become the brand that you want to be. And as part of the challenge, I'm in your inbox several times a week sharing branding tips, inspiration. So if you want to stay connected, that is a very, very great opportunity to do so. It's a free opportunity to do so. And I don't, to be honest, have that many free opportunities to stay connected in my world. And so I really invite you to do that. If today's conversation was one that you felt helpful and felt empowered by, I invite you to stay connected through the Embody Your Brand Challenge so that I can, be in your inbox and continue to exchange this kind of energy with you. And towards the end of the month, I am also going to be opening up a couple more opportunities to work together. There was going to be a masterclass that I'm going to be launching at the end of the month, a masterclass series about how to basically get rich without a niche. So if you're someone who's multi-passionate, someone who has too many ideas for their brain, someone who feels like they have a hard time just picking one thing and sticking to it, definitely stay tuned. This is going to be coming soon, probably going to be announced in the next 1 to 2 weeks. So I'm really excited. Stay tuned for that. And then lastly, if you hunger for a one-on-one relationship with me, one-on-one coaching is my gold standard, all-star way of working together. It's my bread and butter. It's the first thing that I offered when I started to do branding was one-on-one mentorship and coaching. And those, clients are truly my favorite. I love every single one of them. And if you feel hunger to work with me in that way, to experience that one-on-one relationship, to work on building a brand that is true to you, a brand where you can feel self-actualized, self-expressed, a brand that attracts your soulmate clients and pays you for doing what you love, I invite you to reach out. There's a link in my bio, but also feel free to DM me. I would love to just have a conversation with you, hop on the phone, talk about your goals, and see if you might be a good fit. So thank you again. Thank you. Thank you so much for stopping by. I'm so happy that you were able to make it. And until next time.